Welcome to Language Learning Insights. I'm Rick Moore, creator of the language learning app Mivoca. Today I'm joined by Anita da Silva, founder of Portuguese with Anita, who's been helping thousands of students learn European Portuguese through a practical, self-paced approach that builds confidence one step at a time. Today we'll talk about language learning methods, common learner challenges, and practical advice for students. Anita, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Rick. Thank you so much.
I wanted to start out by talking about your background, just to give listeners some appreciation for where you come from. And I know you've been teaching for a while and have gone from classroom teaching to online. So could you walk us through that journey?
Well, it's a long journey because it's been 21 years now since I started to teach. And my background, my first university degree was in Portuguese and English teaching. So I started right after I finished that first degree to teach European Portuguese. And I basically fell in love with the challenge. So I was firstly teaching in some private institutions to small groups of expats who wanted to learn the language, just for fun, to go to the restaurant and order in Portuguese. And then later on, I was teaching in public schools and then international schools. I was the pedagogical director of one of the international schools for the last 3 years before I actually started the project Portuguese with Anita. So I've done a bit of everything. I was a bit everywhere teaching the language to every single age group that you can possibly imagine. And it was fun. It was really fun. It was a fun journey.
And what led to your decision to create the online program? Because that was more recently in 2020,
Yeah.
right?
2020, exactly. End of 2020 and beginning of 2021. So the international school where I was working at the time as a pedagogical director, they offered me the space to start teaching adults as well in the school, in the building of the school. And I already had some parents and grandparents from the children who wanted to learn the language with me as well, especially on weekends. And then the pandemic started and everyone was like caught in surprise. Like we had to switch to online, right? I think we all had that urgency at that time. And something that made me panic in the beginning, I was very scared. I must be honest, because I was always a very interactive teacher. In a way, I teach through games. I take them out of the classroom, like for you to just have a bit of an understanding of what I'm saying. Like, for example, this school was like 600 meters away from the beach. And sometimes I used to take the kids down to the beach so we could have a lesson outdoors. So I'm this type of teacher, let's put it this way. So it was very scary for me to have to switch everything that I knew all of my life, right? My comfort zone into a platform, into a system that would work and would keep them interested from the beginning of the lesson to the end, right? Because there's no human touch. There are no games and fun in the classroom. You know what I mean, right? So it was very scary in the beginning, but I soon realized that the change needed to be within myself. I needed to study and find ways to keep my teaching style still. Otherwise, I would be going through desmotivation. And I was a bit depressed in the beginning, like, oh, what can I do? How am I going to make this fun? Like by using a computer with them in the other side, I was like sleepless for some nights, I must say. So I needed to find cool ways to teach as they were used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I studied a lot, I must say. I've done so many courses, like in the last couple of years, more than from, all of my life before then, So, and I found my own ways, my own programs and games and fun through the computer, interactive ways to teach them and get their attention. And all of the groups that I had mentioned before, like even the adults, the grandparents and the parents from the children, they were like, oh my gosh, this is fun. Can we continue online as well? Can we have it too? And I started to make small groups of people, like adults as well. And I started to be very popular. Like they were telling all their friends and their friends telling other people. And it started to be like, wow, amazing. Like, and I was teaching from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. in the evening every single day. And that was like exhausting. So, and I was having fun, don't take me wrong, but it's exhausting, like in the end of the day. So I was like, no, I need to find a way to help more people at the same time, because I started to have requests of learners from the States, Canada, South Africa, Malaysia, Thailand as well, surprisingly, you know. And I was like, okay, so the time zone difference, this is not going to work. So that's where I needed to, to create my own platform and my self-paced courses. And that's how it all started.
Well, that's quite a journey. Very interesting how you've been able to incorporate some of the aspects of teaching live in a classroom environment in terms of making it fun, incorporating humor. How do you use the fun and humor in your online courses and your videos?
First of all, I think the teacher needs to be fun, needs to have a sense of humor, needs to be relaxed. So that's why I always say the students pick the right teacher accordingly to their own personality as well. If you have no sense of humor, you shouldn't attend my courses or my classes, because otherwise you don't understand my jokes, right? So sometimes explaining a grammar concept, not even mentioning the activities you can develop with a certain topic, but just by explaining a topic with a joke that people can relate to will make them remember that for the rest of their lives. Especially when we're teaching adults, kids, they sponges. They learn, by stimulation. It's just so easy to teach a language to a kid, right? But to an adult, we overthink. We always like, oh no, that can't be that easy. Oh, wait, how can I relate this to something, right? And we are, we're stressed, we have hectic lives, and sometimes it's difficult to retain information. So you need to make them relax for them to absorb the information. Because I work like that myself as a learner too. So I create the space, the environment for them to be relaxed and have fun through jokes, through activities where they can develop vocabulary skills with flashcards sometimes, even games on Kahoot, for example, mentioning some platforms where you can develop quizzes and things for the students to play and do repetition, right? So there's so many things that you can actually develop, even a group conversation class where you can give each one a word and they need to figure out a whole paragraph together, putting them together and make them have fun while they learn. So yeah, there's so many things. So, multiple things come to my mind when I think about fun in learning and teaching, actually.
Yeah, fun is something that we all could use more of when it comes to language learning. For those of us who already have a serious enough day, wanting to have something that's more relaxed, more enjoyable,
Yeah.
if we're studying a language. When you set out to create your online program in particular, uh, I imagine there were certain things you're looking to do that would be different, that'd be unique, that might be more effective maybe than what you've seen from other teachers online. Is making it fun, incorporating humor, one of those things? And are there other things that you have consciously tried to do to maybe fill a gap that you saw in language learning?
Yeah. Well, let's say, Rick, that I was never a conventional learner myself, right? I could not sit in the classroom for more than 2 hours in a row with conventional programs that are only based in repetition and don't have any interaction, where the teacher is just, giving information like as you are hard drive, like that's the only thing you do there. So when I created my program, I took in consideration many aspects of our, how can I say this, our brain, the way we work for everything. Like you learn how to drive by experiencing it, right? You need to drive, you need to practice, you need to go there in the middle of the traffic, and you need to see how people actually drive in real life for you to be aware of the risks, on how you should turn, park, etc., right? And I think language learning has basically the same rules in that, you have to learn it through exposure as well, right? You have to be exposed. You need to hear people speaking as well. And, sometimes creating a course, it's not simply putting the grammar up there and the vocabulary up there, like, oh, this is the vocabulary, this is a list of grammar, this is a list of verbs, prepositions, etc. You need to show people how to use it, so if you don't show them how to use it, again, in a fun way, through dialogues, through role play, through, so many things, like fun videos where you create characters. Like, I don't know if you had the chance to look into my Instagram, for example. I have this character called Jane. Well, shouldn't say character. Jane is a lady that everyone knows now in the internet. And she is basically the representation of the challenges that my English speaking students face when learning the language. So she was a tool that I also use within my courses and my content creation on social media to make it fun. And, with, I don't know, like some examples, sometimes, cheeky false friends that make people laugh, and they will remember forever, and they will create a connection with the structure that I presented in the video of the role play. It's yeah, basically. So I have a very creative mind. So sometimes I don't know, I just use it to help people, basically.
And your content is meant to be like a self-paced learning platform. So I know there's a structure to it. I imagine that there are ways you need to incorporate certain teaching of vocabulary and grammar along the way. How do you incorporate that at the same time, make it fun and keep them motivated to continue?
So my courses are self-paced, but you have the option. I always say it's not mandatory, of course, but you have the option to be followed up by the teacher, so me, and the community as well. So I develop sessions where they can practice with me and the other students. I develop quiz nights. I develop book clubs so they can progress faster in language learning with the confidence to speak in public, etc. But basically, the way I created my courses explains how I perceive the world as a teacher and as a learner myself, because I had to learn other languages too, like English, French, German, etc., Spanish as well. So it has to do with especially my experience as a teacher. I've been a teacher for 21 years now, and how I understood the needs, right? So you never have simply vocabulary there, like a lesson of vocabulary. I explain you how to use that. And normally it's done in a way to make sense as you go. Like, I know what you need when you move to Portugal. So I start there, right? Your basic things like going to the pharmacy, going to the supermarket, going to the doctors, to the dentist, all of these basic things we need in our real life. So that's what I do with my students. And that helps them grow the confidence a lot. Because first of all, what they're learning is something they will use or start using from the beginning, So I don't overload them with grammar. Of course, it needs to be the basic grammar first, step by step, but I don't overload them with grammar in the beginning in a way they feel so overwhelmed that they block to speak. So like I always say, I don't ask them, or I don't allow them in a good way, of course, to wait for the right moment to start speaking. I make them speak from day one without them realizing it. So that's one of my tricks.
That is awesome. So how do you do that? How do you get a learner to speak from day one?
Well, the shy ones sometimes WhatsApp audio or and a WhatsApp video call makes all the difference, because in the course you have all the resources, all the contacts to contact me directly. So all the possible ways for you to practice. So you decide which one you want to use, if you want to use. That's why I said it's not mandatory to speak to the teacher or to practice with other students unless you really want to. So normally the first step, it's theirs. So they look for me. The ones who want to speak and practice from day one, they contact me. Anita, so here it is. Task of day one. Sometimes it's just repeating the alphabet in lesson one, and it goes from there. Then repeating the numbers, then repeating the first sentence, introducing themselves, or recording a video of what they seeing in a specific moment and describing it. It's the little things, step by step. So through fun, in a way, like, okay, so now I want you to describe your lemon tree. And he describes the lemon tree. All right, so that's perfect. Tomorrow I want you to repeat it with another word added to it, for example. So when they realize, they're speaking. It's magic, like I always say, but it's them who make the magic happens, because the first step, it's always theirs. It's their decision.
I love that they can take it step by step if they prefer just recording an audio, and how you encourage repetition, but then also building on that little by little over time. And I think that brings up another question, which is, how do you motivate learners to keep making progress, especially when they've been into it for a few months? As I know, many people quickly realize it's going to take a lot more time maybe than they initially expected. So how do you help them maintain consistency and keep making progress as they get deeper into it?
One of my main strategies, not talking about my skills as a person, because they say I have this thing to make them feel already comfortable with me. I don't know if it's my voice, my attitude. I don't know. They feel that they are okay to speak. I create many situations where they can actually see other students who were in the same situation where they are right now and are now in a higher level. So, for example, in these community lessons via Zoom that we have like every month, like, I don't know, sometimes 9 to 10 sessions, like, of course, they vary accordingly to our, to the month of the year, to our, to the activities as well. Sometimes we have book clubs, like 4 or 5 sessions. Sometimes we just have Q&A sessions. Sometimes we have conversational sessions more. It depends on the need that I feel they need. And I normally do something. Imagine I send in the beginning of every month, like an email, like, guys, so these are going to be our dates for, I don't know, September, for example. And then they put it in their diary. And I always make sure to put beginner session, days, whatever, and intermediate and advanced sessions separate. But what happened, and I give them the freedom. All right, this is not mandatory. You can attend any of the sessions depending on your level. So what happens is I have intermediate and advanced students who are already fluent and confident in the language, but just want to hear the language, coming to support the beginner sessions. And that is I think that is a fantastic thing to happen, because I don't do anything. It's their job, they're there and they're so supportive. Like, oh, no, wait, let me help you with that. I felt that too. Do this, do that, and people support each other. So by creating these supportive groups, you are creating the right environment for people to feel that, it's just not me feeling like this. There were people who actually felt the same way and actually overtook it. And the other way around as well. I have beginner students who attend intermediate and advanced sessions just to listen to them speaking. So they are like motivated to keep going, and it's amazing, so sometimes we think, I'm not going to mix the levels. No, that's a big mistake if you are a teacher, let me tell you, because that is super magic when they want to be motivated and want to see other students coming from the same places where they are, right? And in that level already. And then another thing I do with my students, and I love it, it's to create offline events. I do a lot of monastery tours, museum tours, lunches, dinners, meetups, so people can make friends. And I have students who are already meeting up without me, excluding me. I'm joking. But they're already like so independent and they became friends, and they practice together. So it makes me so proud, like the immersion of the language. Like I take them to places. Now you're going to order your coffee in Portuguese. I'm here with you. Should I hold your hand? Sometimes I even say as a joke, and they're like, oh, yes, please stay here with me. And they speak it. And then the next time they go, they don't need me anymore. They can do it themselves. Sometimes it's just holding the hand of the student, even if it's metaphorically speaking. But being there for my students was something that I always made sure it happened, even though I have more than 6,500 students right now from all over the world. And unfortunately, some of them are far away and I can't do that. But I try to organize many offline events where they can be present. Like, for example, my Açores language and culture retreats, where I expose them fully to the language with a different person speaking to them in Portuguese, not just me. So I basically hire a guide, and they hear him speaking. They speak to him. It's very, very important. All of these things combined together, because language learning, it's not like maths, right? Maths, there's an exact thing. It's a science. It's there. Language learning, it's a very big group of things combined together for this to work. Or to go faster.
It's a really comprehensive program that you offer, and I'm sure that anyone who follows it will achieve their goals in terms of fluency. But I'm sure you've seen that some students, some learners progress faster than others. Do you think they do certain things, have certain habits maybe that help them make faster progress through your program?
Yes, I feel when you have company, progress faster. So the ones that attend normally the community sessions and the events are way more confident with the language. Not that they learn faster or they are, better speakers than the rest. It's just they practice more, so they're more confident. And the more you practice, it's like an addiction. You want to go more and more and more, and to more things and to more activities. So it's fascinating to see the progress that people who attend, for example, the sessions, the conversation sessions, then also want to go for the book club, even if they don't like reading sometimes. This is impressive, huh? But they just want the interaction and to hear the language more and more. Because it's like, again, an addiction of, I want more and more. I want to feed my soul more with this. So I do see a difference in the ones that attend the sessions. More like, in a way, again, the confidence is way bigger than the ones who just stay and do it by themselves, because I have many students who prefer to be on their own and study on their own. And that's totally fine. They just take a bit longer to be able to speak to people due to their confidence,
I imagine you've had some that have misconceptions or maybe expectations that are a little bit off in terms of how quickly they can become fluent, whatever fluency means for them. Maybe you could address some of the more common misconceptions or maybe erroneous expectations that you think beginner students have when they decide they want to learn European Portuguese.
Well, first of all, one of the approaches, and of course, this is me speaking about my own experience as a teacher. One of the, I don't know, biggest number of approaches I get, especially via email, is that, what book should I use to learn the language? People think they can learn the language with a grammar book. That's a big misconception. And what happens, and I always warn them, I normally do a first warning, like, listen, that is not going to work and you are going to feel frustrated later on. But that's just me saying, I don't want to scare you. It's just, my perspective, of course, if you allow me to do it, right? So people think by learning the grammar, by following a book, that will make them speak. That's number one misconception. Number two is that most of them think, because, for example, if they already speak Spanish, they are going to learn Portuguese like super easy peasy, lemon squeezy. No, it's not the same language. There are many false friends. I felt that challenge myself when learning Spanish. Okay. The pronunciation as well. In European Portuguese, you close the vowels a lot in the end of the words, right? In Spanish, not so much, so the pronunciation can be another challenge. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions when beginners think, oh, but I speak Spanish, I will be fine. Well, you will be kind of understood, but you want to be confused with someone who's actually a Spanish speaker and not like someone who's learning Portuguese because he's living in Portugal. Because one thing is when you are a tourist and you're coming to visit the country, you can get away with that. Totally fine. But when you need it for your day-to-day life, the technical stuff like paperwork, right? The bureaucracy, oh my gosh. So you can feel the challenge there. So yeah, that I would say those are definitely two huge misconceptions for beginners as well.
I imagine that you've also learned quite a bit from your students. Maybe you could share a bit about some of the things that your learners have taught you, maybe that have led you to change your approach to teaching or given you ideas.
Always, they always, it's like I always say every single time. But this happened with the kids too. Like when I was in school, you always learn from your students. You have to be humble enough to receive suggestions and ideas, and you have to have an open mind for that too. Otherwise, you will never succeed as a teacher, as a human, right? In this life. And maybe the biggest lesson they give me is that it does not matter where you are and how old you are. You can learn anything that you want. I have students who are nearly 80 years old and they are studying from the internet, from online programs, and it's fascinating, their strength, their motivation. And it makes me so proud, honestly. And yeah, I think that's probably the biggest lesson. Like you never too old, because there's, that story that, how do you say it in Portuguese, is something like burro velho não aprende línguas. Something like an old donkey doesn't learn languages. Of course, literally, you probably have an equivalent in English that would make more sense. So there is no age, no nationality. Because normally people say it has to do with your own native language as well. The difficulty, the challenge that you have to go over to learn a language like European Portuguese. When you come from Italy, Spain, or even France, or even Romania as well, Ukraine, Russia, it's, how can I say? I'm not going to say it's easier, but it looks like it's smoother, when you introduce to a language like Portuguese. But when you come from an English-speaking country where you have a Saxon language compared to a Romance language, it can be a real challenge. But still, I think when people look to learn a language for connection with their heart, there's nothing that can stop them. So.
I love that. That's profound. And by the way, the English equivalent would be, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's
Yes,
what we would say.
so
Yeah.
you use the dog, we use the donkey.
Right. If you had just maybe an opportunity to give one piece of advice to any language learner, what would you say if they wanted to study a language? What's like the one thing you think they should know?
Don't like, just go and speak it. Don't bother with what other people think of you. You have to go through mistakes and go for it. Like there's always the light in the end of the tunnel. So you're going to be fine. But people are so scared of what other people think when they're speaking, if they do mistakes. Like, honestly, you would never speak a second language if everyone thinks like this. How could we communicate in like a global language like we're doing now? For example, we're communicating in English. If I was scared of making mistakes, which I do every day, I'm sure I'm not a native speaker, I would not be here, so it opens your doors to multiple things. It does not matter what the language is. It connects you to people. So go for it. Speak from day one. That's what I do with my students, speaking and practicing from day one, even if it's just the sound.
I love that. Yeah, speaking right away and not being afraid of making mistakes and accepting that you're going to make lots of mistakes and
Yeah,
that's part of the process, right?
absolutely.
Before we wrap up, could you maybe just give us a quick overview of what you offer? I know it's a lot from the content you provide to the self-paced courses in the community, uh, but yeah, for our listeners, maybe just give us a broad overview of the overall offering of Portuguese with Anita and where they can go to learn more.
So you can go to my website, portuguesewithanita.com, and I have 7 self-paced courses. So a beginner's, intermediate, and an advanced master course. So the 3 levels of the language that normally take you from A1 to C2 level. And then you have a tourist course. So for people who want to experience the language and the culture just as in a tourist perspective, just to visit Portugal. You also have a children's course for kids age from 5 to 13, 14, I would say. And then you also have a daily conversations master course, which is an A2 level course designed for people who want to improve their speaking and listening skills through real life dialogue. So scenarios where you go to, the hospital, to a meeting, to find a job. So real life dialogues. And then you also have the CIPL preparation course that prepares people for the citizenship exam, the CIPL, as it is called. So 7 self-paced courses that you can do at your own pace and then have all the community support included because I don't charge extra for the sessions. It's all included when you purchase the course. And I also do amazing, and I forgot to tell you that earlier. I also do amazing stories inspired in my cats in some adventures through Portugal. So this is, for example, this one is the special edition with the 9 islands of Azores. While you experience the culture, you also have like a QR code with audio so you can listen to the story with Anita's here voice. So I'm an author. I do many books. This is just one of the examples of what people can find from Portuguese with Anita resources. I forgot to say, you can find my books in Amazon, Anita da Silva, and you find me there with all my books there.
Wow,
Thank you,
that
Rick.
is so impressive. Thank you for your time and for all that you do, which is an incredible amount. I'll be sure and put PortugueseWithAnita.com in the show notes so they can go there to learn more. Um, and before we wrap up, I just wanted to say to everyone, thanks for listening to Language Learning Insights. Again, I'm Rick Moore. And in addition to hosting this podcast, I'm the creator of MiVoca, which is a personal vocabulary system that helps you capture, organize, practice, and master the words that matter to you. MiVoca Starter is free forever, no credit card required, and you can learn more at mivoca.app. That's MIVOCA.app.